Everybody, welcome back to another Daily Drop here on TarHeelIllustrated.com. I'm THI publisher Andrew Jones, and as you know, it's football season, and for the most part, the topic on drops these days is North Carolina Tar Heels football. We're going to talk about the defense, the performance in the opener at Minnesota, and how opening performances have been pretty good in the Mac Brown era, but they don't always connect to the rest of the season. Before I do get into that, quick reminder, for just $8.33 a month, you can be a UNC Tar Heels Insider too. That's all it costs. 1 year subscription, $8.33. That's less than a meal at a drive-thru nowadays. It's far less than most meals at a drive-thru, especially if you want a large drink. It's a no-brainer, guys. You have access to everything we do, Carolina football, basketball, and recruiting, and amazing message boards. Our message boards are fantastic. I love going on there and just reading. I don't always participate. I like to read what intelligent Tar Heel fans like you have to say about what's going on. Okay, the defense was excellent for the most part Thursday night at Minnesota. A lot of people are harping a little too much on that last series before Minnesota missed the field goal as time expired. Okay, something to clean up. Stuff happens. They still won. I think the two PIs on Marcus Allen are things that will be addressed. The first one didn't turn his head. The second one, he'll learn from that, and it didn't hurt them in the end. They won the game. There were some missed tackles in the secondary, a little too many missed tackles in the secondary. They'll get that cleaned up. They've talked about doing a better job tackling in the back of the defense. They need to improve that, but they still only gave up 244 yards. The defense had 5 sacks, and they forced 5 3-and-outs on 11 Minnesota possessions. That's 45% of their possessions. It was 3-and-out for the Golden Gophers. That's pretty damn good. And that's good considering the fact they have one of the better offensive lines in the Big Ten. They had 4 returning starters. They got a left tackle who could be an NFL first-round draft pick. So the Tar Heels did a nice job. Now they need to build on it. And that's the big question mark, because last year against South Carolina, they have like 12 TFLs. A bunch of sacks. They didn't build on it. If you actually look at the 6 openers in the Mac Brown Part 2 era, Carolina's defense is averaging giving up just 16.8 points a game. But the other 60 games of the Mac Brown Part 2 era, the Tar Heels are giving up 29.4 points a game. That's a 13-point difference from openers as opposed to the games. And before you say, openers are usually against patsies, 5 of the 6 openers have been against power conference opponents. The only non-power opponent was Florida A&M a couple of years ago. And guess what? They scored more than the other 5 openers did, the power teams and those other 5 openers. The Rattlers had 24 points. How about this? In the 6 openers in Mac Brown Part 2, the Tar Heels have given up an average of 283 yards. That's it. That's damn good. But in the other 60 games, they've given up an average of 416.5 yards. That's not good. Then if you look at rushing, which to me is the signature of how good a defense is or not. If you can't stop the run, you're not a good defense. If you can stop the run, you have a chance at being a good defense. In the 6 openers in Mac Part 2, the defense is allowing 62.6 rushing yards a game. In the other 60, the defense is allowing an average of 175 yards per game. So you don't have to know a whole lot about football. If you just kind of have an idea about numbers in general, you'll see that there's a significant discrepancy from the 6 openers. 5 of those games have been against power conference teams, as opposed to the other 60. Heels are ready to go in openers. They're 5-1 under Mac in openers. The one loss was at Virginia Tech. People will remember that one forever that are Carolina fans. So 5-1 openers, in openers, that's good. The defense, even the Virginia Tech game, only gave up 17 points. Defense was largely pretty good in that game. The offense stunk. That's why they lost. So they've come out with a plan, they've executed a plan, and they've done a good job. But they haven't built on it. They haven't stacked those performances. Last year, they had a couple of good ones. They were outstanding against Syracuse, but Syracuse stunk that day too. Carolina had a lot to do with it, but that was like the fifth game. That wasn't a stacked performance. With the schedule coming up, the Tar Heels now have a chance to stack performances. Charlotte had about 370 yards or so against James Madison on the weekend. The Tar Heels should keep them under that number. Charlotte scored 13 points. The Tar Heels should keep them at or below that number. They need sacks. They need 3 and outs. They only had 1 PBU the other night. They need some PBUs if Charlotte's going to throw, and I think they'll throw. They threw more than they ran against JMU. Then you got NC Central coming in. No excuses not to be ready to go and stack another performance. So then JMU comes to town in week 4, a quality opponent, but an opponent that Carolina should beat at home and maybe should beat with a little comfort. If the Tar Heels can stack what they did in Minneapolis this weekend against the 49ers, the weekend after that against Central, and then go to the JMU game with some pretty impressive defensive numbers, I think that would be a very good sign that might be an indication of who they are to a degree. Now, the numbers won't be that good once they get into ACC play because the competition is going to be much tougher. But you got to stack these performances in order to be something significant defensively. They haven't been that in the past. They've been way too many, I wouldn't even call them aberrations, just blow-ups, collapses, matador defense, train wrecks, whatever you want to call it. They've been terrible at times, too often. That's why the numbers are what the numbers are. So then with JMU, that's an opportunity to stack a 4th performance. So if you clear the non-conference part of the schedule and you head to Duke and the defense has been outstanding, that is a sign, again, like I said a minute ago, that things are heading in the right direction. They'll then have to continue stacking it against Duke and then against Pitt and then against Georgia Tech and then against Virginia and so on. But this is a defense that didn't stack the performance from South Carolina to App State last year. Didn't do it. So now they have an opportunity to stack the performance. I think it's so important. I'm using that term a lot because I think it's vital that this program right now in year 6 with the new defensive coordinator who's all about dictating play, being the aggressor, not the reactor. They need to show in week 2 that week 1 wasn't an isolated thing, wasn't an aberration of you all, wasn't a product of Minnesota playing a quarterback from New Hampshire who played at New Hampshire previously and not having its best running back, a preseason all Big Ten kid. They need to show it's who they're becoming, not yet who they are, but who they are becoming. That's crucial against Charlotte. That's crucial against Central. That's crucial against JMU and so on. So let's see what the Heels do. The numbers are what they are. You can see much more in-depth research about those numbers in our leftovers piece that we ran Sunday afternoon following the win at Minnesota. It's pretty fascinating. It's very fascinating. In fact, we'll probably have some more on it later this week. It'll be interesting to see what maybe some of the players and Mac has to say about that as well. If you're excited about what you saw defensively the other night, not just the numbers, but the way the team played, the way they flew around, the freedom that these athletes played with, the confidence that they played with. If that excites you, go ahead and press like on this video. If you're looking forward to see if this team can stack the performance, click like on this video as well. Go ahead and sign up and subscribe to our channel if you've not done that already. Make sure you share this video with all your Tar Heel friends. Let them know we're here. Remember, guys, $8.33 a month. You can be a Tar Heel expert too and hang out in a great community of passionate fans just like yourself. And make sure you hit the notification bell so you get updates every time we do a video, which is often.